Good morning, good afternoon, good evening to East Central Missouri and the world, and welcome to the James Strong Show podcast number 165. 265. I'm 100 off. Podcast number 265. Thank you for joining us. Thank you for making us a part of your day. I appreciate it. This podcast was recorded on the morning of Saturday, April the 23rd, from the James Strong Studio in Western St. Charles County. Lots going on this week in the news and in life and in general. I spent the week in Pennsylvania, and today in East Central Missouri, we're going to have a high of, right now it's sunny and 71 at about 7:30 in the morning, and it's going to get into the 80s. It was almost 90 degrees here yesterday. Earlier in the week, though, I spent the week in Pennsylvania. Northern Pennsylvania in the Poconos, calling on customers. And friends, we had 11 inches of snow earlier in the week in Northern Pennsylvania. So I've gone from 11 inches of snow to 90 degrees. So quite the swing within a week, okay, in the country, in the Midwest, in the US of A. But that's what you get in the middle of the United States in March and April, even into early May in some places. I think we're past all that, though. The grass is looking green. I think we're out of the freeze warnings for everything, and I think spring has finally sprung, and I think we are finally there. Something of note, and this is just something that happened with me, and I found it funny, and you may find it funny too. But this is the 23rd of April. Several days ago was the 20th of April, 420. Well, 420 it's like the pot day, okay? It's a national holiday for marijuana, for whatever reason, okay? And me being the dopey, clueless individual when it comes to pop culture, there were a group of people talking about 420. And they asked me, well, what do you think about 420? And I looked at him, I said, well, do you mean 420 or 420V? Now, what I meant by that was I thought they were talking about tool steels. 420 is a type of stainless steel, tool steel, used in manufacturing. 420V is the same material, but with more vanadium in it to make the material a bit harder and tougher. So when they were talking about 420 and asked me what I thought about 420, they were talking about the pot holiday. And I thought they were talking about tool steel. Therein rubs the lie as to how I am different from most people. I'm not saying in a good way. I'm not saying in a bad way. I'm just saying I'm different. I didn't think of pot. I thought of tool steel when they were talking about 420. Found that humorous. If you look outside at your yard, it's time to cut grass. I mean, I've cut grass 3 times already. I will cut it a 4th time today. It's just time. And my yard is my hobby. I'm not obsessed with it, but I'm not going to lie to you. I've got one of the better looking yards in the neighborhood. And people say, well, you know, what kind of chemicals do you put on your yard? And I will tell you, almost none, because you don't need a lot of chemicals on your yard to make it look good. Now, what do I mean by that? You're going to say, okay, here you go, Strong. You're Mr. Earth Day, Mr. Green, Mr. No Chemicals. No, I'm not that way at all. However, if you think about what a yard is something that's in front of your house and you want it to look good. However, more things go on in your yard than just looking good, okay? Children play on your yard. Wildlife walks on your yard. And if you put too many pesticides, herbicides, and the wrong kinds of fertilizer at the wrong time, it just causes a lot of problems. It's expensive. It's time consuming, and it hurts the environment. It hurts animals. It hurts kids if they walk on the yard or play in the yard. And it's actually not even necessary. I mean, pesticides. look, I get it. Sometimes you need to put pesticides in your yard if you've got some type of grub that's really causing a big problem. I'm not saying never use pesticides, but just don't throw down pesticides to kill stuff, because you're going to kill the worms. You're going to kill everything in that yard that's beneficial to your grass as well. Herbicides, same way. Sure, you kill the weeds, but when you use pesticides and herbicides on the flowers that pop up in your yard, the honeybees get on that and the honeybees die. And there's a big problem with honeybees dying in this country, in this world, actually. And friends, if you want to go ahead and think that we have troubles now and food is expensive now, if all the honeybees die and plants can't get pollinated, how are we going to eat? Fertilizer's kind of the same way. I mean, my grass is popped, it's super green, and I put no fertilizer on my grass, because if you put fertilizer down on your grass now, your grass has not had a chance to establish a deep root system, okay? If you don't establish a deep root system, come summertime and it gets hot, your grass is just going to die, and nobody's going to know why. Well, it's because you haven't established a deep root system. I don't fertilize until well into May, because the grass has had a chance to establish. It's going down deeper into the ground to get the roots. The roots are going down deeper into the ground to get the nutrition, and you're going to have a stronger, better yard come summertime. Now you think, okay, well, I got to use pesticides or herbicides rather, because I want to get rid of all the ugly weeds. If you do it 1 year and get rid of them and control them, the next year they're not going to come back with a vengeance. They're going to come back just a little bit. And then you can go out and individually pick them up. There's a little tool that you go ahead and put in the ground. It severs the root. You pull up the dandelion or the plantain or the nut grass or whatever you have. And it really works. And if you establish a nice thick lawn, weeds love sun. And if you have a nice thick lawn, the weeds won't sprout because there's no sun getting down to the dirt, okay? So if you do that with your yard, you're going to have a good-looking yard. You're going to spend less time on it in the long run. It's going to cost you a whole lot less, and you're not going to have pesticides and herbicides killing the good animals and hurting kids that play in your yard. And the fertilizer is not going to run into the watershed and cause an algae bloom. See, you didn't think a strong man was green at all, did you? Maybe I'm a little greener than you thought. Which leads us to gas prices. Now you're thinking, okay, here you go. You're going to lecture us on gas prices again, Strong. You're going to say, yeah, you should drive electric cars or walk or ride your dopey bike. No, actually, I'm not. Right now, gasoline, I just went past the filling station, and it's $4.23 a gallon for premium, and that's what I have to run on the Jaguar, premium gasoline. That's expensive. It's a lot of money, but there's ways you can save money. I guess the easiest one is don't drive a Jaguar and don't use premium gas. That saves 40 cents a gallon right there. But there's other stuff you can do too. There's other stuff the country can do too. For instance, look at the Ukraine-Russian war. What's the number one thing that the West wants to do to hurt the Russian economy? Stop pumping oil. Okay, stop buying their oil so they can't sell the oil. That's going to hurt their economy. What have we done in this country? We've shut down the Keystone Pipeline, and we've discouraged frackers and others from pumping more oil. What do you think that's going to do to the economy? I've used this scenario before, and I'm going to use it again. Either you believe the United States and the West are the best folks to be in charge, or you don't, because somebody's going to be in charge. If it's not going to be us, it's going to be the communist Chinese, or it's going to be the Russians. Who do you think would be better stewards of the environment? The United States and Western Europe, along with Japan and Australia and Korea, etc., the West, China, or Russia? Who do you think would be better stewards for the environment? Well, then don't you think we ought to do anything possible, everything possible to make sure the West stays in charge. Doesn't that include pumping more oil, dropping the price for its citizens? And eventually, look, we're going to go to electric cars. 2 reasons. First of all, nobody wants to breathe dirty, stinky air, drink dirty water, have dirty anything. People don't want that. Forget about the whole, you got to use an electric car because that's what the green people want. Nobody wants dirt. Nobody wants pollution, okay? That's number one. Nobody denies that an electric car puts out less emissions than a ICB, internal combustion engine car. I get that. And they'll get the charging stations. They'll figure all that out eventually. They haven't yet. In the meantime, run gasoline cars. Number 2, an electric car is a whole lot cheaper to manufacture and maintain than a gasoline car. It just is. The main problem with it right now is not enough charging stations, not enough electricity, not enough battery power, all that. And they'll figure all that out. Bottom line is, eventually we're going to go to more and more electric. And I think that's a good thing. Everything's going to be cleaner. But for today, preserve the West, would you? Because we really are the good guys. We really do wear the white hats. Somebody's going to be in charge. Somebody has always been in charge. And if you think that the West, as flawed as we are, with Joe Biden as president, as flawed as we are, would you rather the Russians or Chinese be in charge? Put that in your pipe and smoke it. Simple, not easy solutions. Before we get into my essay today, I didn't talk about my essay, did I? No, I didn't. Jordan B. Peterson, the clinical psychologist. I saw his lecture last week. I'm going to talk about the lecture. I'm going to talk about Jordan Peterson, the one of the true geniuses of our era. Okay, but one before I get on to that essay, one more piece of info having to do with the Ukraine-Russian war. When is this going to end? I don't know. It's going to end eventually, and I'm not sure how it's going to end. I suspect it's going to end with Russia not taking over the Ukraine, because I can't see that happening. Even if they did take over the whole country, those people are not going to sit pat. They will have guerrilla warfare now and forever, amen, and the Russians will get sick of it, and they'll leave, just like they did in Afghanistan. Okay, that will happen eventually. So the Russians are in the short term or the long term are going to lose this war. That's just a given. Now, why do I say that? Number one, if you look throughout history, what war have the Russians ever come out on top? When? The answer is never. Sure, you could say World War II, maybe, but that was just part of the Allies. Okay, they were part of an Allied resistance to the Axis powers. Okay, so you can't say Russia itself won a war. They won a war in cooperation with the U.S., the UK, Western Europe, etc., Australia, etc. Even China was on our side at that time. But they've never won a real war ever. They've never held territory ever. Never. It's never happened, and it never will, just because of the way they are. And they'll lose this time too. Now, how do you short circuit this thing? 2 things, simple solutions. Number 1, you explain to and I don't know why they haven't done this, but it would be very simple. Number 1, you explain to the Russian people, you do understand when this is all over with, you are going to personally pay to rebuild the Ukraine. We'll let you pump oil. We'll let you export vodka. We'll let you import your luxury goods that you want, but they will all be taxed 20% or more. So you're going to be paying 20% more and getting 20% less of everything until this is all paid for. You are going to be paying for this for a generation or more. The longer it goes, the more you have to rebuild, the more it's going to cost you. The Russian people need to understand that. Number 2, there's no doubt war crimes have happened in this war. Mass graves with people, chemical bombing of people, cluster bombs of people. Vladimir Putin and his generals are guilty of genocide, are guilty of war crimes. And what these generals need to know is that when this is over, they will be tried for war crimes.